welcome guys to a video most disturbing abandoned places.
It's most disturbing things like abandoned building encounters caught on camera. Okay, let's go. What the hell is this shit? What?
Christopher Brian Hill is an urban explorer with a YouTube channel called Urbex Hill. Over the past 10 years, he's been uploading raw footage of his visits to some of the creepiest abandoned buildings in the country, often running into unexpected and sometimes life-threatening situations. Urban explorers like Chris face many dangers, from aggressive stray dogs to hostile squatters to respiratory risks and unsound structures. Venturing into an unfamiliar abandoned building is much more risky than it might sound. It's obviously much safer to explore abandoned buildings in the light of day and with a group of friends, but in most of his videos, Chris explores
He's
at night
fixing
and
that
always
sound.
In June 2022, he visited the abandoned Westinghouse Electric Factory located in Cleveland, Ohio. Built more than a century ago, the factory originally consisted of 7 different buildings.
Okay, don't make fun of
most of them have been demolished by now.
It's a good
Even though
place.
the Westinghouse Company was established in 1886, it didn't reach Cleveland until 1894. Founded by Thomas Edison, Westinghouse is best known for the notable engineers who worked for the company, including Nikola Tesla and William Stanley. For several decades, the Westinghouse Company rivaled General Electric, and it was last used as a lighting equipment production plant before its abandonment in 1979.
Do you know that abandoned place is like a...
decades, the abandoned factory has been one of the hottest urban exploration locations for curious explorers and YouTubers.
What did you say?
Do you know that place? It's like an abandoned shampoo factory. My dad's friend, he worked there before and he actually lived there too, but not anymore.
Is it in Finland or?
Yes, it is in Finland.
Is it haunted?
Probably. There's a lot of poor people that probably lives there or something.
Okay, let's continue.
In 2012, the factory started receiving even more attention after the Black Widow interrogation scene from the first movie of the Avengers was shot there. 10 years later, Chris made the trip to the abandoned factory
I have seen
and recorded everything he saw.
Same.
As Chris begins exploring, there doesn't seem to be anyone around, and only the sound of crickets can be heard in the darkness as he walks around the outside of the building. Disturbingly, the sound of gunshots can be heard in the distance less than 5 minutes into the recording. It's worth mentioning that for the past few years,
I would run away if I
one of
was
the top 10 most
I would
dangerous cities
scream,
in the
motherfucker.
US, making this visit to the abandoned factory even more risky.
No, don't go visit it.
That's Cleveland. Wow. That's crazy. It's not even that far away from here. Oh, that sounds like a shootout.
Chris has experience exploring everything from abandoned mental hospitals and sanatoriums to vacant occult temples, and he shrugs off the fear as he enters the creepy building.
That's not a good idea.
Just like in many abandoned buildings, Chris finds a mattress on the floor, meaning at least one person has been sleeping there recently.
Of course.
As he captures footage of the first floor and walks up the stairs to the second floor, all that can be heard in the eerie darkness is the sound of his footsteps. A few minutes later, Chris goes down to the basement, and the footage becomes increasingly creepier as Chris runs into a series of dead ends under the leaky, moldy ceiling.
Okay, I'm hearing something. Maybe it's an animal. This animal's down there.
No.
At several points during his exploration of the basement, he can be heard making comments about a strange noise coming from somewhere on that floor, and at first he seems to think it's an animal. Alarmingly, he finds a few shell casings on the ground from what was probably a 9mm handgun. Although it would be pretty unsettling to find something like this lying on the ground in the abandoned factory basement, it's worth mentioning that police departments often use abandoned buildings and complexes for training exercises. However, in this case, it's impossible to know if that's really what happened. Shortly after, he comes across a series of disturbing messages on the walls. He continues recording as he walks down narrow corridors, and this is where things get a lot more disturbing.
It says it's too late.
This place is so wet. Scared the God of me.
What the fuck?
Yo. You need some help, bro? Yo.
No.
It's the actual person.
I know.
He's not even responding. I'm gonna leave him alone. God, it is what
I get some. I have to
Bro,
turn
that's
this
crazy.
my phone.
After about 20 minutes of exploring, the visit takes a very dark
There's another
turn
guy
as
like
Chris runs
sitting
into a
like
hunched
crying.
over man without a
With
light at the
ECP.
far end
He
of the
probably
room.
took some
He
drugs
calls
so
out
he
to him
didn't
and
hear
asks if he
anything or
needs
was
help,
like
but the man
absolutely
doesn't
like,
move or respond.
You
Chris
see?
decides
Yeah.
to leave him alone.
You see something?
I can show you guys, I can show you. You see, right there someone is.
You see a red jacket guy or something?
No, he doesn't even have a shirt on. He's probably taking some kind of drug.
Understandably, Chris's breathing can be heard getting louder and heavier after the extremely
It's a
unsettling
bird.
encounter.
I know,
But things are
right?
only about to get more disturbing.
They see it.
I'm gonna help that dude out. I'm gonna get this dude a $20 bill. Yo. Hey, I got some money for you. He's not there. And he's not responding.
He's not
About
there.
4 minutes later, Chris decides
No,
to go
that's
back
a
to
I think
help
that
him
I
out by
think
giving him
the
a
guy
$20
who was
bill.
there, he's like.
But alarmingly, when he goes back to the room, the man is no longer there. This could be incredibly dangerous, as squatters are known to behave aggressively toward unwanted visitors. And because they know the place better than anyone else, they can easily hide in the shadows and attack or scare.
Back.
Meg and Chris uploaded a new video to their channel, Back in Time MC, in which they showed footage of their visit to a rundown old farmhouse somewhere
Okay.
in the UK. In the caption,
I'll leave
they
you a
mentioned
farmhouse.
an entry point through an open
I live
window
in a
around the side of the
farmhouse, so
house. Based on the
I
state
might
of
be used
disarray
to
the
this.
farmhouse is in, it's clear that nobody has been
No, I'm
maintaining
not
it
used
for
to that.
quite some time.
Required.
The floor is covered in leaves and cobwebs, the shoes look dusty and unused, and there are even a couple of dead animals lying on the floor, along with
No.
some shotgun shells lying on top of a bedside
Shotgun?
table. The only
That's
clues that
scary.
indicate somebody could have been at the location relatively recently are that one of the light bulbs in one of the bedrooms looks relatively new, and some of the clothes in the closet look only gently used. Based on the pictures that Chris finds on different shelves and hung up on the walls, it appears as if a family of at least 4 children used to live in the farmhouse. As the couple continues with the exploration, they walk into one of the upstairs bedrooms, where they find something very unexpected.
It's a carpet that comes all the way across.
I think there's a dead guy there.
Yeah.
We shall come into this bedroom here. Oh wow. Oh my god. Get out! You're alive! Get out, mummy! No!
What the hell?
We thought it was abandoned. We thought it was abandoned.
When he first walked into the
He
room,
takes
Chris
drugs.
didn't notice that
He
there was
takes
someone
drugs.
asleep in
I
the
just
bed.
know that
That's a
already.
It wasn't
girl.
until Meg
I know.
walked in and made a noise that the woman sleeping in the bed woke up and gave them the scare of their life. Although the uploaders blurred the woman's face out of respect for her privacy, it's clear that she's pretty old. During the conversation, she tells the couple that she doesn't have any family that could take her to live somewhere else less depressing. Out of sheer kindness, Chris and Meg keep the lady company and try their best to understand her situation. She introduces herself as Jane, and over the next 10 minutes they ask her questions about how she ended up living all alone in an abandoned farmhouse. Thanks to the couple's empathy, the initial shock of being startled by the sleeping old lady and seeing her living in such terrible conditions quickly turns into a heartwarming moment in which the three of them talk about each other's lives.
What happened was I came here to help somebody. Okay. And this is only for a week of coming. Yeah. And that was 1993. Oh God.
Wow, so you've been here nearly 30 years.
Disturbingly, Jane mentioned she's been living in the abandoned farmhouse for 30 years. And even though Chris and Meg offer to help her, bring her food, and buy her clean clothes and sheets, she seems hesitant to accept anything from them, claiming that she's fine living the way she does. She mentions that even though it's not her house, the men who work at the farmhouse know she's there, and they bring her food and water every day. In a touching moment at the end, the couple agrees with Jane to visit her again soon. This would have been a happy ending to the story, but Chris and Meg included a caption at the end of the video that cast the situation in a more disturbing light. The caption reads, "I did a lot of research to try and find the name of the farm and whom it was owned by. Luckily, I got the information needed, and I even got a message from someone who knew the farmer who farms there." Chris goes on to explain that the man who reached out to him also knew that Jane was living there, and that the farmer also lives in the farmhouse with her. According to the man, Jane is very well cared for, but she chooses to live in those terrible conditions anyway. The man also mentioned that Jane's husband is up there constantly to make sure she's okay, but she doesn't accept his help very easily, or anyone's help for that matter. It's worth mentioning that Jane might not have been completely truthful about her situation to Chris and Meg. During their conversation, she mentioned that she didn't have anyone to care for her except for the farmer, but the man who knew the farmer told Chris that she also has a brother who tries to take care of her. Not entirely convinced by what the man told him, Chris continued digging for information and found that the farm was not on any land registry records, but there was another property to Jane's name that she owned between 1986 and 2015. After visiting the other property, Chris mentioned that it was as unkempt and beat up as the farmhouse itself. Having heard two different versions of the story from the man who contacted him and from Jane herself, he decided to contact Adult Social Services. This is the email he received from them. "Good morning, and thank you for your email. I can confirm that Adult Social Care are aware of this lady. However, I'm not able to provide you with any further details. We appreciate your input and the information you have provided, and thank you for raising your concerns with us." Chris then told the man who contacted him to tell Jane that he and Meg would be happy to go back and visit her if she wanted them to. After this, there were no further updates on the old woman, and we'll likely never know what became of her. The only thing we know for sure is that if someone else decides to explore the abandoned farmhouse in the future, they'll likely run into the same situation as Chris and Meg.
Yeah, but
Sadly,
it
this
is
type
an
of
old
situation
lady,
is much
so
more common than
she
many
could
people
be dead.
realize.
Yeah.
With rising prices and the overall state of the global economy, a large part of the elderly population is being forgotten. Hopefully, Jane can accept some help from her family members and live out the rest of her days in much better and healthier conditions than the one she was in when the video was uploaded. Robert Fulton Elementary is an abandoned school in a pretty rough neighborhood of Cleveland,
No.
Ohio.
That's cool.
The building is
That's
92
not
years
good.
old and has been abandoned for over 13 years.
There's going
After
to be a
several
dead body.
complaints from
I
nearby
already
residents who
know
mentioned
that.
that the abandoned building was an
Okay.
eyesore, a potential crime hotspot, and that it was lowering the value of their properties, the mayor of Cleveland announced plans to turn the rundown old building into a high-quality, mixed-income housing unit for the community. Although the idea is still in the planning stages and the city needs more funding to complete the project, the plan is for the renovations to begin by the end of 2024. For now, Robert Fulton Elementary remains one of the creepiest abandoned schools in the country. In May of 2023, Chris Hill, again from the YouTube channel Urbex Hill, uploaded a video in which he made a second visit to the boarded-up, abandoned elementary school. The first video he made of the school was back in 2022. During his first visit, he heard strange humming, chanting, creaking, and banging noises coming from different rooms. This was part of the description in the first video. Most sections of the building are falling apart, and the water and elements have done irreversible damage to the structure. I would not recommend anyone explore this school. You risk getting robbed or worse. With that being said, I heard weird noises and other various things during my exploration. After these incidents, the vast majority of people would have been too terrified to